photo page. Bobby Joe, you can start in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Thank you for joining us to this broadcast of Understanding Behavioral Health. My name is Bao Joashu. I'm a victims advocate for the Yakama Nation Behavioral Health.
My name is Rachel Gregg. I'm the Social Marketing Communication Specialist for Systems of Care.
And I'm Crystal Esquivel. I'm the project manager for VRP, and I manage the Violence Against Women Act grant.
I'm Shaniya Gunyer. I'm the project coordinator in VRP as well for the VOCA grant, which is Victims of Crime Act. Sorry.
Thank you for joining us again. As you guys know, in the past we have done a few other podcasts, and I'm grateful that you guys are here to join us. But I guess let's start off with what your guys' overview of your programs are.
Yes, go for it.
So the overview for our program is obviously it's VRP, Victim Resource Program. Yeah. So for the VOCA grant, obviously we have different programs or grants under the one VRP umbrella. So for VOCA, how I said it's a Victims Against Crime Act. We help with, all of them kind of help with sexual assault, domestic violence, property crime, hate crime, anything so forth. It's just they kind of branch and they're different categories.
And Victim Resource Program consists of several grants. So there's 3 grants on our case management side with Victims of Crimes Act. And then we have Set Aside, which is an OVC grant, and that's kind of similar to VOCA. And then we have VAWA, which is Violence Against Women's Act. And then we have other grants as well, but that one are under the DV shelter. Yeah. And then what we do too, we assist victims of crime through advocacy, through a trauma-informed care approach. And then we also want our services to be victim-centered. And we also provide like community-based referrals. So that's partnering with other agency locally. And if anyone wants to flee the area, then we find resources to the location that they want to go to. We provide emergency assistance on a need-to-need basis. And then we also provide court advocacy. Sorry, I was trying to think of the name. Court advocacy. So we don't provide legal advice, but we do provide the emotional support side of it. So if anyone wants to go to court and don't want to go alone, then we'll have advocates who can assist them in that and just be there for them.
Okay, nice. So as you guys were saying that you guys are under different grants of the program VRP, is there anybody else that you falls under that grant as well, besides me?
So VAWA, under our grant is me, Crystal Esquivel, and then we have Camion Sanchez and Vanessa Camargo. And then under VOCA.
Yeah, under VOCA we have obviously myself, Shaniya, and then I have another advocate, Samantha. So, that's just for VOCA as well.
Okay.
And under the Set Aside grant is Bobby Joe Ashu, woo woo, here. And then Jordan Maninek. And then Ashley Whitefoot is the one who leads it.
Wow.
Sweet, sweet.
Yeah. And then like sometimes like people might be confused on what kind of services we provide or qualification and eligibility. So people are eligible if they're a victim of a crime, such as like domestic violence, sexual assault, elder child abuse, stalking and or harassment, dating violence, sex trafficking, and general crime.
So when you talk about people, what that qualify for your programs, what kind of people? That just sounds a little bit wrong.
Yeah.
Because I know we're all located on the Yakama Nation Reservation. Is it just Yakama enrollees, descendants, so on and so forth?
Yeah. So it's anyone who is federally recognized under a tribe. So it can be descendants and any enrolled member.
Does it vary by age or?
No, it can be from 0 to 99.
0 to 11.
All right. So the ones that do want to get our services, how would they come about to access our services?
Like the intake process?
However you think that the process is, yeah.
Well, of course, like it's all voluntary. So if somebody needs some information, so forth, they can call us themselves or reach out through our brochure, Facebook page, anything like that. Then we just ask a few questions. Our intake is of course, it's all case-to-case basis, so every case is different. So, but every packet that we start off with for every client is, of course, 3 pages, you know, from personal information to household to information about their perpetrator. And then we'll also take another 5-page packet of a general safety plan to kind of like, so if somebody's running from their perp, they can go from, oh, I have money at this place, so I'm going to use this safety word. Kind of just help them, because in a scary situation, it's either fight or flight. So we need to keep them to go and stay with a safety plan to keep everybody safe.
A little bit about your guys' background. How long have you guys been part of behavioral health? Do you know?
Part of behavioral health, I started back in 2016, and then I took a break and I came back. So about 2 years ago.
And I started in December of 2015.
Wow.
And it's very interesting because when I first walked into behavioral health, it was just an empty desk with the binder and maybe even one pen. So there was no like policies, there was no foundation within the victim resource program. And so I had to like review the grant, read the narratives, and go from there because we're building from scratch. And it was actually the first grant I've worked for and the first time I ever built anything. So it was a challenge, but yet exciting and fun because it's something that the community needed. Because before the victim resource program was a dual program called the domestic violence program. And that program provided dual services for perpetrators and victims. So you're having perpetrators and victims go into the same lobby, and that's something that is very intimidating. So our program director applied for a grant, and she got it. So then she hired 2 people, and that's how VRP started. So the first year we were really focused on building intakes, building like client numbers for HIPAA and confidentiality, working with other programs when we need to use like financial funds. So whenever anybody needs emergency funds, we don't let anybody know who is requesting it. So that's to hide the identity of our clients because our number 1 priority is, of course, confidentiality and safety.
Sounds like a unified world of resources combining.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes like to criminal acts.
Right.
So knowing that everyone is able to come in, are you guys willing to go out to them for the intakes, or how's that look at?
Oh, for sure. We can go. Sorry, we can go out to them. We go out in pairs just for safety of our advocates, and even the safety of the victim too. You know, we can do over the phone, or we can obviously go to them, as long as it's in a safe location for, again, the victim and the advocates to do the intake process.
Yes. So a mobile advocacy is something that we do provide. So example of what Shaniya said is if anybody doesn't want to come into our office, we'll meet them where they're at. And because it can be a lot of reasons. Maybe they know someone who works there, or maybe they just don't feel safe going to the building, or maybe it's transportation issues. So we can meet them like in parking lot, and if it's an individual who lives in White Swan, we can set up a meeting at the White Swan Clinic to use one of their offices to meet with them. We can also meet with anyone in Yakima, up to Celilo, even Priest Rapids if needed. And this is something that we want to put more out there to let individuals know that anyone who needs services, like in seated areas of Yakama Nation, is that we can provide that. Even if we have to do it virtually, or we can make like arrange appointments to go and meet with the client in their area. I
was thinking about that on the way here. That like I I've utilized these services. Don't get me wrong. Have been a victim of some sort of domestic violence at one point, and it's embarrassing, or it feels like an embarrassment. But then when you open up and get the opportunity to speak to somebody that understands what you're going through, and the safety and security that like you guys all bring, that's what I get to tell. I'm obviously one of the marketers that I get to say and outreach and tell people like these are the resources that you have. These are what you could utilize. These people are amazing. They're confidential. I'm willing to share what goes on with me because I heal from it. And that's the best way to heal is by speaking about it, by being open about it and being able to share it because there's so many people out there that are scared or like vulnerable and not being able to like reach out or know when to reach out. And I know that sometimes it's scary and embarrassing or it's just like you're shameful or because of the things that you go through. Like everybody's story is different and I know that's how I felt, but to have you guys here and like hear what you guys offer it's amazing. It's an amazing resource and it helps not just by keeping us safe, but helping us heal after, like being able to have those resources after reaching out to you guys.
Yes, and then I appreciate you pointing that out because coming in to ask for help is hard sometimes, and sometimes individuals, they don't want to ask for help. You know, it's also comes like you feel ashamed, you feel embarrassed, and sometimes like a good reminder is like if you've been victimized of a crime, you got to remind yourself the crime doesn't become you. You're still your own person, and it's the healing journey that's going to take time. And we're here to help each and every one who comes through the door to help them through their healing process and try the best that we can. But in order for us to help you, you have to help us too.
Definitely.
by being open to the services that we can provide.
All right. Well, I like all this information because a lot of times we get a lot of questions about how far can we go out. People can do it over the phone. I know a lot of people still don't understand that. We still take phone calls. To find any of this information, where would somebody be able to find it?
So we have social medias. You can find our information on the Yakama Nation Behavioral Health, Facebooks, and Snapchat and Instagram. Victim Research Program also has a Facebook page. We are working on an Instagram page, but right now we're just mainly working on Facebook. We also put out our information on Yakama Info. I know that it's only towards employees, but we also try to put out flyers as well to target the population who don't have access to social media or emails.
I think the best way is always the footwork, the actual making in-person contact and letting them know, because then you have that intimacy of like letting them know that you could utilize these resources, or if you know anybody. And people kind of get comfortable and like pull you aside and start telling you like, I know this person, how can I help them? We'll give them the information for when it'll be on the screen somewhere, here, or here. But yeah, I do my best as a marketer.
And then, another type of outreach that we do is we try to provide like brochures to other departments within other agencies here in Yakama Nation and even outside. We're currently working on updating our program. So we're working on updated versions of the brochures because we recently moved to the old Quality Inn Hotel with the rest of the behavioral health.
Yes.
And that is 511 South Elm Street in Toppenish,
I was all, does anybody know the address?
which is next to Dad's,
There you go.
which is one of the fun things because we can just walk over to get a burger and
As
fries.
we're all doing the challenge.
Right?
Well, I'm not.
And then we can walk it off at the park.
So speaking of handing out brochures and stuff like that, I know we've done a lot of outreach events, and that's where a lot of the people can find us in the futures. Is there any grant projects that you guys are working on or that you guys completed already?
Grant projects. So what is it for April? We actually have the Sexual Assault Awareness Month. So we're going to be active a little bit on social media, kind of just bring awareness to that. And then we do, of course, have the MMIP symposium coming up in May. That's kind of also the big one that we held at the casino. They're willing to work with us, which is great. In June, we do have a coming up for elder abuse awareness as well. So those are coming up in the future, kind of things that we're going to be active in doing. And then if Crystal wants to elaborate on the MMIP.
The title, the name, the label.
So, wearing
You
it right here. So, grant projects, like one of the biggest one that I've completed is the Victim Resource Program. Creating the policies and working with our technical assistants within the grants. I want to say that's my biggest project. And then within building the Victim Resource Program, of course, I've had help along the way with our previous coordinators, and then most importantly, our advocates. You know, they play a huge role in making sure that our program is running because they're the ones who are putting the footwork and putting in direct services and helping the clients out there. So I appreciate our advocates because they're like the heart to the program. And I'm here to help guide and help make sure that on the administrative side everything's good. But they're there helping they're
Y'all
helping.
the face. They're the
Yeah.
face.
Yes.
First contact.
Yes.
Y'all
No,
can probably build those connections a lot faster than anybody else too.
Yep.
And then they'll be like, "What happened to so and so? They were helping me first."
so knowing all of this, I, appreciate working with both of you guys. Is there any specific reason why you guys applied for the position that you guys are in now?
So I went like around that time I was more focused on art and graphic design, and I always loved to help people, so I wanted to focus art for a cause. And I wanted to like work for a small company, but for some reason like I ended up falling into like a social work field, and I ended up working with like foster children out of the residential center, and kind of opened my eyes to a lot of things and all the struggles that people go through. And one day I went to the agency. I think I was there to get tabs, or I was there to get something. I'm like, let's see what the job board has. And then I seen this position, and I'm like, this sounds very interesting. So then I applied for it, and I got it, and I was like surprised. I'm like, wow. and I think what really led me here is that the passion of being able to help people. And reading the description of that sounded very unique because we're like Yakama Nation, and we can shape our program to fit those cultural values that Yakama Nation has. And what made it very like awesome for me too is that it's unique because a lot of these programs out there for domestic violence or victim services is geared to the white man world, and and with the Yakama Nation is like we're our own sovereign government, and we can cater our victim services to fit our needs,
Indeed.
not outside of the government. And I also appreciate our culture specialists because they help guide us through that. They're there to help. Like if there's something that we don't know, we can go to them and they can help us show that to our clients. And they're available too if anybody wants to like learn some of the cultural values, because not everybody grew up knowing them. I'm one of them, and I've learned a lot working with behavioral health. And sometimes I feel like things happen for a reason, because for a moment I feel lost, and I didn't feel somewhat accepted, but I experienced a lot of things. I've been able to do my root digging, and I did my ceremony, and it's something that like we do want to start support groups, and I think it would be really nice to bring those values in and use that as part of healing process.
Definitely.
Okay.
Shaniya.
So what made me apply? Actually, honestly, like I said, I did start back in February 2016 as the suicide prevention for under the Garrett Lee Smith grant. Like I said, I did take a break And then Kathy was like, hey, I applied back and she was, hey, can you run this program? And then she kind of, hey, we need you over here in VRP. And she kind of threw it in my lap a little bit. So, but what made me kind of want to apply, but even back then, is people don't really talk about any of like grooming or red flags. I mean, when I was in high school, they didn't tell me. So I'm like, why can't we kind of break that chain now? Like, we're in positions that we can help utilize where we're at to kind of break that chain and get the information out there to hopefully change the data and bring it down, not up. Let's bring it back down, you know? So it was, like I said, I applied, but it was also kind of put in my lap a little bit too. So.
What caught your attention, like, to apply for a behavioral health program?
Well, I always kind of wanted to be in the mental health field anyways. I wanted to help people out because, I mean, everyone goes through something, right? But nobody really thinks of the people who do the work. And I was like, well, if I want to help somebody, let's step in there and do it. I always wanted to help people, so that's kind of why I was like, okay, sure. Let's see where it goes. Let's just see where it goes. And here I am after a few breaks, years later. So,
Drawn right back. Huh?
yeah.
I also want to add on that Shaniya is a handler to Sage, who is our therapy dog.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes. I know, yeah. She helped me in the suicide prevention program back then. She helped get us into schools and other programs that weren't really ready to talk about suicide. And then kids were like, oh, there's Sage and her handler, you know. But now she's with us at VRP and everything like that. So she's a trooper. Yes.
Especially in our Tree Day parades. We always dress her up.
Yes. Yes.
Opportunity.
Yeah, and I really want to, I do like how you said that you want to be able to break the stigma of being able to open up and talk about, like, mental health. Because sometimes, like, people are not open to that, and it can be, like, scary because people don't want to feel like nothing's wrong with them, you know?
Definitely
And-
don't want to identify
Yeah.
my secrets, my darkness. That it's not a joke, but it's seriously like that's how you feel at one point. It's like that heavy and that weight that you hold onto, that you feel like you can't share with everybody around you. And then you have us that are out here on camera ready to help everybody and anybody as much as